Unless you're a freak like me, you probably haven't given much thought to AP World, right? I mean, come on, Corona, duh. Wrong. We've still got the AP exam to study for on Thursday, May 21st at 2 p.m. And that's exactly what I'm striving to do this. This series is my way of studying for this exam, and you guys are welcome to join me. If anything, you get to watch me be stupid on camera for a little bit. You might even remember something about what I'm saying. I don't know. Anyways, hold on to your hats, because today we're talking about the earliest human civilizations. So why, Chloe? Why a web series? Because I like making videos and I'm bored and I like history. I promise I'll have a theme song and introduction eventually, but right now I'm in the middle of writing a musical. MKC. You can figure out what the initials stand for. Doubt you will, though. When I'm done writing songs about Molotov-Ribbentrop, I'll get to a theme song, I guess. Anyways, the series focuses on the basics of AP World Modern History course offered at my high school. First couple of episodes might be boring or strange, but that's because I'm figuring out how I want to do this. Plus, the replacement charger for my camera doesn't come in for a while, so I have to use my phone. Not the point, but just sit back and watch and hopefully make sense of my nonsensical shenanigans. Today's episode can be broken up into 3 main parts. Early civilization? Can't say. Can't speak. Okay, we'll cut that little section. Today's episode can be broken up into 3 main parts: early civilization, agriculture and society, and other things I deem important. Let the games begin. To begin with, we're going to start with some AP World tips. So before I get into today's topics, let's have a little chat. Henceforth, I shall dub anything like this in the future the basics of AP World.
And now, AP World Basics, brought to you by Chloe Urtis.
In AP World, you can't just use basic knowledge. You have to use high-order thinking. You can't just memorize the material. History is much deeper than dates and names. You have to connect things. Don't expect all the connections to be made for you. Think for yourself. You also have to use context clues. But this one's kind of a given if you don't quite understand something. Also, use any and all background knowledge. If you learned it before, it's probably important. I found all this to be pretty helpful in this class, and it honestly applies to any AP class. Use this to get ahead of the competition, because that's what life is. Survival of the fittest. Let's begin with part 1, early civilization. To begin with, we have the Paleolithic period, in which humans migrate from Africa to Eurasia, Australia, and the Americas. But Chloe, how did they get there? The Bering Strait land bridge? That's how. They just shimmied their way on over to America from Asia. There was also a second bridge from Asia to Australia, but nobody ever really wants to talk about that. Probably because, like Canada, Australia isn't real. The Ice Age caused the waters to rise, and these bridges were eventually covered up by the water, which is why we can't prove Australia is real, because it's not. Humans during the Paleolithic period were hunter-gatherers, meaning they hunted and gathered for their respective societies. These societies were egalitarian, meaning everyone gets equal rights and equal opportunities, no matter your gender. Environmental problems kept the population of these societies to around 50 to 100 people, and environmental problems are basically just like factors in the environment that limit the way humans can interact. Early people used tools to improve their life. Too bad tools have destroyed mine. Cringy jokes are what we strive for here. These tools are made of wood, stone, and bone. They also made fishing nets and lines. Fish made up a big part of the diet of these early hunter-gatherers. I don't have any jokes for that part. Most of these hunter-gatherer tribes were made up of kinship groups, which is just a fancy word for families. As time progressed, these kinship groups created fire, languages, and more tools to grow and become stronger. The Paleolithic period roughly lasted from 40,000 BC to 8,000 BC. The people of this time period were very good hunters, but as big game died off, new resources had to be used to get food, which brings us to our next section, agriculture and society. Part 2, agriculture and society. As big game died off, people had to find alternatives to hunting in order to feed their growing populations. So they started to domesticate plants, which led to the beginning of farming. And from farming, we get society. With society, we begin to see hierarchies, technological advancements, villages, towns, and farming. Before society, most kinship groups and tribes had coexisted peacefully. But as the goose taught us, peace was never an option. People had stuff to lose, and others were glad to take it. Vocab time! Vocab time. I told you this video was going to be stupid. Alright, today's word, urban ID. Honestly, I just kind of wanted to use the pointy stick, not gonna lie. Definition. Definition of, relating to, or designating a city or town. Look, I can spin like a drumstick. Well, with agriculture, large societies, agricultural surpluses, and specialization of labor came with it, equaling civilization. That's what this has to do with history. Complex institutions also came with growing society, meaning we see the first political bureaucracies, armies, and religious hierarchies. We also see the first social classes emerge. Many civilizations organized long-distance trade relationships with other civilizations and developed their economies. They also traded with the nomadic pastoral people that roamed the land. Writing developed in order to keep records. We also see an increase of violence. There were competitions for resources, which also led to new technologies for defense and war against competitors. However, it would take nearly 15,000 years before humans were able to develop the technology we're most familiar with today.
So is it any wonder people are afraid of technology? Technology!
Oh my god.
Now, what was the difference between being civilized and being uncivilized? Being civilized meant that you lived in an area that was under state control. If you lived outside of state-controlled areas, you were considered a barbarian. Nice. This brings us to part 3, otherwise known as other things I deem important. Agriculture, very important in the path to civilization. With civilization, we also begin to see the first empires. The Sumerians didn't have an empire. The first empire was the Akkadian Empire, but they were rather small. The Assyrians were the first powerful empire, but were by no means the last. Writing, known as cuneiform, also emerged as the first writing when civilization began to take shape. Laws, such as Hammurabi's codes, also made debut. Don't know what Hammurabi's codes are? Time for Hammurabi's codes, alright? Hammurabi's code, from what I remember from the notes I took 3 hours ago. Hammurabi's probably spelled wrong, but we're going to talk about that. One important thing, criminals need to be punished. Why? Because criminals are bad kids. Number 2, be excellent to one another. That's not actually what it said, but it basically said that people need to be good people, alright? Everyone needs to follow the laws, and everyone will be punished, but to the same extent, by the laws, okay? That's what he was striving for here. The most important thing to remember about Hammurabi's code is that Hammurabi was a king putting people first. He wasn't putting his power first, he was putting his people first. This whole bit's kind of stupid, but I kind of honestly am living for it, not gonna lie. The people of the Fertile Crescent copied their culture from the Sumerians.
And now, a moment with some Assyrians creating their culture.
Alright, gentlemen, we need to come up with our own form of culture. Anybody got any ideas? We could try to build our own culture from nothing, start from scratch, just kind of ask the people, what you think. That sounds like too much work. I don't want to do that. Anybody got any other ideas?
We could drink vodka and wear silly hats and reunite all the Slavs in Europe.
Uniting people sounds hard. And what's a Slav? No, I don't like that idea. Okay, but like, hear me out. What if we just copy the Sumerians? That way we don't have to put in any extra work. And like, it's a pretty good culture. Just saying, they already got writing, you know? I don't know. Take the ideas of the Sumerians and claim them as our own. Oh my gosh, that's perfect. You know, we don't have to do any work. Oh my gosh, this is golden. This is golden material right here. Whoever you are, you get a promotion. Instant promotion.
This has been A Moment with Some Assyrians, creating their culture.
Other societies popped up between the Tigris and Euphrates River. That's kind of important to know. They were governed by a form of socialism. Hitler. I just made a lot of enemies on that joke. Ziggurats were the first temples, and the Ziggurats were the first temples, and the gods they honored weren't friendly and were rather moody. Kind of like the seniors right now. Please could shoot me. Also, the Epic of Gilgamesh is the oldest known writing ever. In conclusion, agriculture is important for civilization to form. The earliest people were hunter-gatherers, and Australia isn't real. Sorry for my horrible sense of humor and the bad jokes, but like I said, I'm making this for myself. And they're going to be what I want them to be. So I hope you enjoyed learning about the early civilizations for a freshman. Also, one more thing. Mr. Mayfield, if you're watching this, history question of the day. Are there any banana republics left? I was just wondering. That kind of just popped in my head like when I was writing this stuff, so I don't know. Comment below, Mr. Mayfield, if you're watching. So, for everyone else, tune in, hopefully tomorrow, for another exciting episode of me teaching AP World History class, briefly. Stay safe during this pandemic, and remember, no matter how much you hate it, history slaps! I believe I wasted an entire night on this instead of doing MKC.